Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we sift through, the mountains of research and the latest thinking to bring you the stuff that really matters.
And today, we are tackling something, well, something pretty fascinating.
We really are. We're looking at a question right at the very peak of learning with technology. How does AI actually help people who are already at the top of their game?
Exactly. I mean, the person we're talking about today isn't asking for help ordering a coffee. They are the specialist, the surgeon, the policy advisor. They're already operating at an incredibly high intellectual level.
And they're trying to push that boundary even further.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack a really compelling set of observations about how AI is, fundamentally changing what it means to achieve that next level of mastery, both in language and in thought.
Okay, so let's get into that. We're not talking about AI as like a fancy flashcard app. The sources we're looking at position it as something much more profound, a critical intellectual collaborator.
That's the phrase, a collaborator.
These are people, like you said, who already know a lot. They've got the vocabulary, the grammar's probably 99% there, they can function in a professional setting, but they hit this wall.
And that wall is the really interesting part.
Yeah.
Because it's less about a limit in their own ability and more an environmental one. The central problem, and this comes up again and again in the sources, is the simple lack of a conversation partner who's on their level.
Someone who can actually keep up.
Someone who can keep up, and not just in one area, but in all the complex intersecting areas that these professionals work in. The world is, frankly, very short on polymaths, who also happen to be expert language coaches.
That's the real barrier, isn't it? That intellectual barrier. If you're a researcher working on, I don't know, the intersection of genetic biomarkers and AI ethics.
Good luck finding a tutor for that.
Right. You need a sparring partner who can operate at that same intellectual altitude. And a human expert is, they're rare, they're expensive, they're probably on the other side of the planet.
And they definitely can't be an expert in your other 4 fields of interest simultaneously. It's just not possible for a human brain.
So this is where the AI promise, as the sources call it, really comes into play. It's positioned as more than just a language tool. It's a core.
A core intellectual dialogue partner. That's the key. And a multifunctional intellectual mentor that just doesn't have the same cognitive limits that a person does when it comes to breadth of knowledge and, crucially, instant recall.
So if the last generation was using AI as a dictionary, this generation of advanced learners is using it as like a personalized, on-demand intellectual faculty.
A faculty, that's a great way to put it.
And the sources break this down into 3 main roles that AI is filling for this very specific group. First, the specialized debate partner. Second, the immediate, and I mean ultra-precise, language corrector.
And third, the bridge. The bridge from that formal textbook English to how people actually talk in the real world.
Okay, let's dive deep into that first function because it feels like the foundation for everything else. So we're starting with this huge problem of specialized conversation. It's one thing to practice your English. It's another thing entirely if you're, say, a senior defense analyst who needs to discuss, very specific jargon-filled issues about satellite security.
In solace English, under pressure.
Exactly. And if your language tutor's expertise is just general conversation, well, that mismatch doesn't just slow you down, it actually becomes a bottleneck for your intellectual growth.
It's a huge bottleneck.
Yeah.
And it's not just about learning a few new words. You can look up words in a dictionary. It's about intellectual density. It's the ability to build and defend a complex argument using that specialized knowledge fluently in real time.
The sources really hammer this point home for professionals in fields like, advanced machine learning or very specific medical specialties, high-level policy, dense philosophy.
All these areas where the concepts themselves are incredibly complex, even in your native language.
But let's step back for a second and challenge this. I mean, we have to acknowledge what the sources call the human partner limitation. But if we're saying AI doesn't have genuine human insight, doesn't that limit its ability to debate something really deep, like an ethical dilemma? Isn't it just repeating high-level summaries it found online?
That's a fantastic question, and it's something the sources absolutely anticipate.
Yeah.
The answer is in the mechanism. See, a single human instructor, they just can't deeply cover all of those domains at once. Medical ethics, cognitive science, global finance, AI policy.
They have to be a true Renaissance person.
Exactly. And if they try, their finite human brain spreads its resources too thin. The conversation gets shallow, fast, because they can't bring in real-time counterarguments that are rooted in all those different fields at the same time.
Okay, so how does the AI pull it off? What's the mechanism that gives it this incredible breadth?
So this is where we have to talk just for a second about the tech. The AI closes this gap because it's built on a large language model, an LLM. It has, for all practical purposes, ingested the bulk of human textual knowledge. Centuries of it, across every field imaginable.
So when you ask it to debate policy, it's not thinking like a human analyst.
No, not at all. It's instantly processing and retrieving the foundational texts, the competing theories, the legal precedents, the philosophical underpinnings, all from its massive internal knowledge graph. It's offering this unparalleled breadth and depth of synthesized information. It becomes the ultimate intellectual gap filler.
That makes perfect sense. It's not human insight, it's instantaneous textual synthesis. And the sources point specifically to tools like ChatGPT's voice mode. That's the tool of choice for this.
It is. Using it as this AI English debate partner that you can tailor to your exact professional domain, but it requires a very structured approach.
Right. The advanced learner isn't there for a casual chat. They need what the sources call advanced topic proficiency.
And the AI's superiority here, compared to a general human partner, is all about that immediate access to synthesized knowledge. I mean, think about trying to discuss the core principles of utilitarianism, but applied specifically to modern genomic data privacy laws.
A general instructor would hit a wall in about 30 seconds.
They'd hit a wall and start asking you simple, surface-level questions. The AI doesn't. It operates at the depth required to make you, the learner, strain both your intellect and your language at the same time.
The sources have a name for this practice. They call it topic-based deep speaking. And it's not a free-form chat. It's a structured, focused, intellectual workout.
A workout is the perfect word. It's designed to elevate your argument formation and your linguistic fluency in lockstep. This deep speaking routine uses the AI as the central tool for expanding your English within your intellectual domain.
It shifts the goal from just speaking English correctly
To articulating complex, nuanced arguments correctly, immediately, and persuasively, which, for an advanced professional, is everything. Every word choice, every clause carries the weight of their expertise. The AI forces them to grapple with these huge abstract concepts, and that demands the highest registers of the language.
The specific examples of questions that the sources provide really bring home just how intense this is. These aren't simple hypothetical.
Not at all. Let's take that first one. How should one approach the ethical dilemma concerning life support decisions in the neonatal intensive care unit, NICU?
Oh, okay, wow. That is not a simple question.
It's massively complex.
Yeah.
And it demands so much more than just medical vocabulary. To answer that, you, the learner, have to engage with philosophy concepts of personhood, quality of life. You have to navigate legal precedents around parental rights. You have to consider the practical constraints, like resource allocation in a hospital.
And if a human instructor tried to challenge you on that, they might be able to hold up one side of the argument, right? Maybe the ethical side or the legal side.
Maybe one or two perspectives. But the AI can sustain the argument from all of them at once. It can come at you from the legal angle, the ethical, the medical, the economic. It can challenge your assumptions in real time. It might argue for strict resource prioritization from a purely utilitarian framework.
And then just pivot.
And then instantly pivot to a deontology-based defense of parental autonomy. And you, the learner, are constantly on the back foot, forced to structure your rebuttal in complex, formal, precise English. That continuous, high-pressure stimulation,
Yeah.
that is the core value.
And then there's that second question they bring up. Can AI become a moral patient?
Another huge one. That pulls in philosophy, AI ethics, cognitive psychology, the very definition of consciousness and suffering.
To even begin to debate that effectively, you'd need vocabulary related to phenomenology, sentience, agency, complex neural architectures.
Exactly. But what's so fascinating is that the AI provides both the specialized vocabulary and the logical structure of the debate itself. This allows you, the learner, to focus purely on forming your argument and achieving fluency within that incredibly specialized context.
You can't hide. You can't use vague terms or simple sentence structures.
No, you're forced to use language that is as precise as the intellectual concept you're trying to convey.
And this whole process is designed to avoid getting stale. The sources mention that it's built on a sophisticated curriculum structure. You're not just hammering away at one topic forever.
No, that would lead to burnout.
Yeah.
The idea is that these intense, deep speaking sessions are structured to cycle through the learner's various fields of expertise. So it's medicine one week, then maybe cognitive psychology the next, then philosophy, then AI tech, and finally international economics.
That cycling has to be key. It builds cognitive flexibility.
It's a huge part of it. The act of forcing your brain to rapidly switch between the dense vocabulary of, say, post-Keynesian economic theory and the fine-grained terminology of deep neural network topology. That's the linguistic workout all on its own.
It stops you from getting burned out on one topic, but it also maximizes your retention of that high-level, domain-specific language across your entire intellectual landscape.
And throughout it all, the AI remains this consistent, knowledgeable partner across all these incredibly different expert domains, which, solves the core problem we started with. The advanced learner finally has a conversation partner that's worthy of their intellect.
One that is constantly pushing them to articulate the highest complexity of their thought in a language that's not their own. It's really about maximizing your intellectual output by getting rid of the friction caused by the language barrier. This is expertise development on a whole new level.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. We've established AI as this incredible intellectual sparring partner for the content of what you're saying.
For the what? For the what's. But once that content is there, the delivery, the how, has to be perfect, especially at a professional level where, nuance and precision mean everything. So now we're moving into AI's role as a tool for refining language use immediately.
And this is so critical. For an advanced learner, the mistakes aren't, I go to store. The errors are subtle, they're stylistic. Sometimes they're about using an idiom that's just slightly off, or a tiny grammatical quirk that comes from their native language.
What linguists call interlanguage interference.
Exactly. It's the subtle stuff that distinguishes a very fluent non-native speaker from a true expert communicator. And this is where the AI shifts from being a conversation partner to being a sophisticated, hyper-precise refinement tool.
And a big part of this is the real-time linguistic feedback. This is where the text superiority really becomes clear. A human tutor is always facing a dilemma, right?
Always.
Do I interrupt the flow of this brilliant argument to correct a minor preposition error and risk derailing their train of thought? Or do I just let it slide and hope it doesn't become a bad habit?
And AI doesn't have to make that choice. It can do both at the same time. The AI can capture and process the content of the argument and the quality of the language simultaneously. We're talking about multiple layers of analysis happening instantly.
Okay, so walk us through the tech here. How does that actually work in the moment?
Well, first, it relies on incredibly fast and accurate speech-to-text processing. This has to be better than your standard consumer-grade transcription because it's dealing with complex, specialized words.
Got it.
Once your speech is transcribed, that text is fed into these grammatical parser models that are running in the background, totally separate from the conversational flow. This is what allows the AI to maintain its side of the argument. That's role one, while also analyzing the linguistic quality of what you just said. That's role two.
So the analysis is happening in parallel while you're already thinking about your next sentence.
Precisely. And the feedback it can give you is incredibly detailed. First, there's pronunciation feedback. It can analyze phonetic variations that might be tiny, but are just enough to register as an accent or sound a little unnatural in a high-stakes meeting.
Okay.
Second, it catches those complex grammar errors. We're not talking simple subject-verb agreement. We're talking about tricky, dependent clauses or complex tense agreements that are characteristic of advanced speech.
And what else?
And third, it can even analyze speaking metrics, things that aren't strictly language, like your speaking speed, your rhythm, your intonation. It makes sure your delivery is paced correctly for professional authority.
That immediacy feels so important. The sources say it immediately corrects incorrect sentences, intonation, expressions. From a cognitive science perspective, why is that rapid feedback loop so powerful for this kind of learning?
It's all about the science of deliberate practice. The human brain reinforces neural pathways most efficiently when the feedback loop is as tight as possible. If I say something a bit awkward, maybe I misuse a complex phrase, and I only find out about that error an hour later when I'm reading a transcript.
The connection is weak.
The corrective association is very weak. But if the AI corrects my awkward sentence instantly, maybe just seconds after I've said it, and presents me with the correct model, that neural pathway for the right structure gets reinforced immediately.
So it prevents those subtle, high-level errors from getting baked in.
Exactly. Errors that are almost impossible to unlearn later on.
This takes us beyond just fixing mistakes and into something more like linguistic polishing. And this is where the sources bring in a concept that's apparently critical for advanced mastery: expression refinement. The original term was arowale, jongyowa.
Jongyowa. Yes, systematic refinement. We use the Korean term because it really captures the precise, targeted nature of what's happening. It's often not about fixing things that are grammatically wrong, but about upgrading things that are stylistically awkward. This is the final frontier for the advanced learner.
So how does a learner actually use this Jonghyeo concept in their daily practice? What's the routine?
The routine the sources suggest is very disciplined. At the end of the day, the learner picks out just 1 to 3 awkward sentences they used. Maybe it was in a formal email or a presentation, or even in their deep speaking session with the AI.
And then what?
Then they feed those sentences to the AI with the specific goal of refining them into a truly native style. This is how you directly attack that interlanguage interference, where the grammar of your first language is subtly making your English sound comprehensible, but unnatural.
Let's get into some more concrete examples. The one in the source is great, but the nuance here is everything. The initial example was correcting AI has agency depends on context.
Into the much more precise and natural, whether AI has agency depends on the context. Adding that word whether signals a sophisticated command of conditional clauses, which is essential for any kind of philosophical or legal discussion.
It's such a small change, but it makes a huge difference. Let's imagine another one. Say a professional says something like, the research suggested that the outcome was not totally predictable. Grammatically, it's fine.
It's fine, but it's a bit clunky, a bit weak for high-level scientific communication. The AI would instantly flag not totally predictable as imprecise. It would probably suggest using a technique called nominalization or just a stronger adjective.
So it might suggest what?
It might suggest something like, the research suggested the outcome was largely stochastic, or the research indicated the outcome was inherently indeterminate. See how it moves the learner from a passive negative to an active, precise term that would be right at home in a scientific paper.
The whole tone changes immediately. Okay, let's do one more. Maybe something from a business context, like an awkward use of redundancy. Say someone trying to express caution says, we must anticipate going forward into the future all possible risk scenarios.
The AI would immediately see the redundancy going forward into the future and the slight awkwardness of risk scenarios. It would refine that into the punchy economical phrase that a native speaker would use. Something like, we must proactively anticipate all potential risks.
Or even more formally.
Even more formally, it might suggest, we must prospectively mitigate all foreseeable liabilities. The correction here teaches economy of language, which is absolutely vital for professional credibility.
That tiny difference, moving from just being understood to sounding masterful, that is the game changer at a professional level.
It is. The implication here is huge. This kind of precise, context-aware correction, delivered instantly and consistently, is what advanced learners need. Their errors are subtle, but they're noticeable enough to just slightly undermine their authority.
So this ensures that their linguistic precision finally catches up to their intellectual mastery.
Exactly. In these high-stakes environments where your communication has to be as sharp as your ideas, the AI is acting as this relentless, continuous quality control mechanism. It's what bridges that final, tiny gap between fluency and true, near-native expertise.
All right, so we've covered the intellectual depth and the linguistic precision. But now we have to tackle the paradox that trips up so many highly advanced learners.
Yes. The reality check.
A reality check, exactly. They master standard English, the formal, written, grammatically perfect English from textbooks and academic papers. But then they get into the real world and they just falter. They freeze up when they hear casual, everyday speech.
It's such a common problem. They can ace a standardized test, but their actual comprehension plummets in a spontaneous, real-world conversation.
And that's something a human tutor often can't simulate very well. The sources call this phenomenon the reality gap, that immediate drop in understanding when you're faced with what they call real-world English.
And this language it's messy, it's fast, it's filled with things that are edited out of textbooks.
So what is it about real-world English that makes it so much harder than the structured version they've already mastered?
It's mostly about phonetics and context. Real-world English is all about speed, heavy contractions, gonna, wanna, coulda slang, idioms, and, crucially, phonetic reductions and elisions.
Where sounds just get dropped.
They get dropped or totally changed. Think about the difference between saying, I'm going to the library, that's standard English, versus how someone might actually say it. I'm going to the library. Vowels are swallowed, sounds are dropped. That phonetic shift completely changes the acoustic signal your brain receives.
And if your brain has only ever been trained on the clean, clear dictionary version, the real-world version is almost unrecognizable.
It can sound like a different language.
Standard English is orderly, real-world English is chaotic. And if you're a professional who travels for a conference, you need both. You need the formal language for the boardroom, but you also need to understand the quick, rapid-fire banter at dinner that night.
Or just the casual instructions you get from someone on the street. If you miss the nuance of a joke or a slang reference, you can come across as socially awkward or detached.
And this is where the AI provides what the sources call targeted casual practice. It allows learners to specifically attack this gap, to practice what they call no-E, everyday English, on its own.
They can intentionally expose themselves to the chaos of casual speech, but in a safe, repeatable environment. There's no social pressure, no embarrassment if they don't understand. They can just practice.
The real innovation here seems to be the ability to customize the AI's communication style. It's more than just telling it to speak casually.
Oh, much more. This is where the learner uses the LLM system prompt capability to engineer a very specific linguistic persona. You're not just asking for a conversation, you're commissioning a character.
What kind of specific requests are we talking about?
The examples are really detailed. A learner can prompt the AI with something like, ChatGPT, adopt the persona of a skeptical 25-year-old American marketing professional. Use natural casual English, including contractions and light to moderate slang.
Wow, that's specific.
Or even more targeted. Answer using heavily reduced speech and pronounced intonation changes, as if we are excitedly discussing sports results.
That level of detail is what forces you to process things like, what you doing? Or y'all want to get out of here? The kind of phrases that are usually just ignored in a standard curriculum.
And this consistent, targeted exposure to natural speech is what retrains your ear. It prepares you for authentic, unscripted moments. It's really about developing linguistic ambidexterity.
The ability to switch back and forth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The ability to switch instantly between that formal, high-register language you need for a specialized debate. That's role one. And the relaxed, rapid, casual language you need for social connection. That's role three.
And the sources say the best way to practice this is through real situation role-playing, using the voice mode, embedding these casual challenges inside professional scenarios that actually matter to the learner.
This is where it all comes together. Theory meets high-stakes application.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to that example they provided. A doctor-guardian consultation. A very complex, real-world interaction.
Okay, so in the scenario, if the AI is playing the part of a distressed parent, it's not going to use perfect textbook English.
Not at all. It's going to use emotionally charged language, maybe incomplete sentences, regional slang, intense contractions. It's going to demand not just comprehension from the doctor, from the learner, but also empathy.
So the learner playing the doctor has to maintain their professional clarity, use the right medical terms.
And at the same time, empathetically respond to the casual speech patterns and the emotional state of the AI persona. Their success in the role play depends on being able to toggle between those registers, deliver complex medical information clearly while actively understanding the guardian's fast, casual, emotional speech.
That's the relevance piece of it. This isn't just a game. It prepares you for those nuanced interactions where tone and context and slang are absolutely essential for a good outcome.
A doctor-patient conversation is inherently high stakes. A small misunderstanding because you failed to decode a casual phrase could have serious consequences for trust or compliance or even the treatment itself.
So by practicing these messy real-world simulations with an AI that can adopt these incredibly specific linguistic roles,
the advanced learner ensures their comprehension won't fail them when the stakes are highest. It closes that gap between knowing the language in theory and being able to use it critically in the wild.
the AI seamlessly transforms from a rigorous academic debate partner into a flexible, realistic character actor.
Perfecting the learner's fluency across the entire spectrum of human communication. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
That was an extraordinary look at how AI is really fundamentally reshaping the path to mastery. We've seen how it can meet these incredibly deep intellectual needs that, human mentors just can't fulfill because of their own cognitive and geographical limits.
That really is a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
We covered the 3 pillars of this AI mentorship for the advanced learner. First, at the highest level, the AI acts as the specialized intellectual debater. It provides that deep, nuanced conversation in complex, multi-domain fields, keeping the learner's mind running at top speed.
And at the same time, it's operating as the real-time linguistic corrector, giving you that instantaneous, precise feedback and refinement. It goes beyond just fixing big mistakes to that process of Zhangyoa, polishing those subtle, awkward phrases into native-level
By
eloquence.
making sure the delivery matches the gravity of the idea.
Exactly. And finally, it serves as the realistic situational partner. It bridges that critical reality gap between the clean standard English of textbooks and the fast, messy, contracted English of the real world.
It prepares the learner for any social or professional situation they might actually walk into.
The final conclusion from the sources we looked at is just crystal clear. AI is acting as an irreplaceable intellectual mentor. It continuously provides professional, in-depth debate while simultaneously correcting complex and subtle language errors.
It overcomes both the cognitive limits of a human partner and the physical, geographical limits of exposure and specialization. It's a combination that's never been available before in human history. This persistent, personalized, deep intellectual challenge paired with immediate, precise linguistic feedback. It just changes the whole trajectory of what expertise can be.
And that leaves us with a really provocative final thought for you to take away based on everything we've just discussed.
Given AI's ability to instantly synthesize vast domains of knowledge and provide this precise, real-time linguistic refinement across every conceivable style of communication, what previously unimaginable level of linguistic and intellectual mastery is now actually achievable for that highly specialized advanced learner.
And as a follow-up to that,
If the AI can handle the breadth of knowledge and the speed of correction better than any human can, how does human mentorship, the role of the specialist teacher, how does it need to fundamentally redefine its own value and its own focus in the years to come?
something to think about for sure as you consider the future of your own expertise. That is it for this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.